and welcome to Season 6, Episode 29 of Pro Wrestling's Top 50. I'm your host, Travis McNeil, and today we continue our countdown of the top 50 matches of 2021 with match number 22 on our list, which is the AEW World Title match between the champion, Adam Page, and the challenger, Bryan Danielson, from the AEW Dynamite Winter is Coming 2021 event held on December the 15th of 2021. So I've mentioned it a couple of times so far in this season. 2021 really felt like the year of long matches. Several 60-minute draws floating around out there. Several, 30-minute time limit draws. Lots of Iron Man matches of both the 30 and the 60, minute time limits. There was a 2-hour Iron Man match in 2021. It really felt like, with wrestling being back, we'll say, that, a lot of these wrestlers, that maybe didn't wrestle as much during COVID as they wanted to, they really had this pent-up need to want to exert themselves through these long periods of time. And long matches can be a mixed bag. They can be very, very good, or they can feel long and tiring. This is a match that has the incredible benefit of being kind of unique, and I guess I'll say like historic in a way, that the fact that, a major wrestling promotion put a 60-minute time limit draw for the world title on nationally televised television, it feels like this awesome, old throwback and not something that we've, seen in so long. WWE, they did 2 Iron Man matches on TV in 2003 with Lesnar and Angle and 2004 with Benoit and Triple H. That, were similar, but this is just kind of the old school, like no fancy gimmick, no Iron Man stipulation that dictates the match is going to go that long. It's just 2 wrestlers, wrestling until, they run out of time and haven't found a winner. And, the time limit draw is, I'll say, kind of a hard match to pull off because you have to give your audience, satisfaction that they feel fulfilled, despite there not being a conclusive winner. But I feel like the follow-up to a time limit draw can be very important as well. And I'm going to contradict myself with that later on in the season. But, I mentioned this in the Omega and Danielson video where, that match to me almost felt more like a fan service, where it was, you're doing this dream match, you can't really have either guy lose, but you have this super hot crowd and these 2 great wrestlers, so you're going to give the fans enough that, they're going to be satisfied that they got to see this cool thing, but ultimately, it's not going to go anywhere, at least as of the time of, me recording this video. Omega went out with an injury. Who knows if they would have, had a pay-per-view match or whatever, I don't know, but alas, they wrestled for a 30-minute draw and there was no real payoff to it. With this one though, we would eventually get the payoff a couple weeks later, that they do with the 60-minute draw here, which, it's funny because I think if you'd ask most people, 2 big Bryan Danielson AEW Dynamite draws in 2021, which one was your favorite? I think the Omega and Danielson match will probably get the nod from most people. But watching both of them back, I truly feel that this is the much better match in the grand scheme of things. And like I said, that one that they did at Arthur Ashe, it was this great atmosphere. It was really cool, but it feels like there's a lot of meat left on the bones. Whereas here, by the time it comes to the end, it feels like they've done as much as they can in the context of the match without that finish. And like I said, they would play off of that and have, in my opinion, even a better match, at the start of 2022 than this one was, that would be the satisfying payoff to what we got here, which left you just wanting a little bit more, but giving you the satisfaction of this really cool, monumental, like, oh my gosh, AEW just did a 60-minute draw on television. This is really cool as an old school fan. How they set this matchup was really, really good. So Adam Page, makes his big return in the casino ladder match on Dynamite, getting one of the biggest pops in Dynamite history, wins that match, goes on to Full Gear, beats Kenny Omega, finally, claims the AEW title that he was almost the first champion, but he couldn't do it then. He's had all of these setbacks through his career. They talk about his battles with anxiety and stuff like that, and the commentary team really drives that home during this match. So, he made it to the top of the mountain. Bryan Danielson comes in, has the draw with Omega, which maybe doesn't go quite the way he wanted it to, but since then he's been undefeated. He won the AEW, World Title Eliminator Tournament, which was something the year prior that Page couldn't do, losing to Omega in the finals. This is Page's first title defense. There's a lot of questions of, is it going to be a successful title defense? He almost feels, and I've seen this, comparison made on social media, he kind of feels like Homicide in 2006 Ring of Honor, where it's like, we really want this dude to win the title. There's this incredible story there, but then when he wins the belt, it kind of becomes, okay, now what, right? Like, that was our story, but, him retaining the title, we're maybe not quite as invested in as a fan base. So, you're still at this point with Danielson where it's like, do you want him to lose? Do you want him to lose this title shot? There's this awesome little kind of built-in story here where Danielson has that frustration of the 30-minute draw with Omega, and they were so smart when they had Page beat Omega at Full Gear. That match went under 30. It went like 25 minutes, which was genius to me because, Page gets to hold this over Danielson of, I did what you couldn't do, and that's beat Kenny Omega in less than 30 minutes. So this match to me, having my longtime wrestling fan thinking cap on, it seemed obvious that this was going to go to a 60-minute draw. I had talked about it on social media. I was looking forward to it. I thought it would be cool to watch unfold on television. But I thought there's no way they're going to have Danielson lose this match. Page really shouldn't lose the belt in the first title defense. I think they're going to go 60. When this match opened this show, that told me right away that they're going to go 60, but still it was a really enjoyable ride to get there, and they really used this smartly in the second match, because what I really liked is they went 60 here. The second match, they didn't do a fancy stipulation, they didn't do no time limit or anything like that. They did it as another 60-minute time limit match, and it also opened the show. So that kind of put that seed of doubt in it of, would it go to a draw again? They put, these 3 judges at ringside for it, which I loved. It was this great little wrinkle that, it was something that Bryan Danielson wanted, because in this match, and we'll get to it, but he would have lost if this match went 5 seconds more than the time limit. But throughout the match, he kind of dominated most of it. So, he would have been ahead by points. So this judges thing makes perfect sense of, if it goes 60 again, if it goes longer than 60, Danielson might not win. But if it goes 60 and it goes to a judge's decision, how could the judges not give this man the victory? So I really liked that tie-in. So smart what they did with Danielson going in here, where, he's this big baby face. He comes in, everybody's really excited to see him in AEW. It's a great debut. But, Page is kind of the crowd's guy. So rather than split the audience, I don't even want to say it was a heel turn. It was more like a tweener turn. But they really started to have Danielson, lean into like, I'm the best in the world. I'm, going to beat the heck out of Adam Page. He's this young, dumb champion. He can't stand me. And it really was a throwback to, Bryan Danielson's ROH, world title run, where he won the title, then kind of turned heel throughout 2006 and really had this air about him as being the best in the world and being this legitimate, ass-kicking world champion. But also this guy that, would just... He would like talk this game because he knew he was good, and it was easy, to get behind pretty much every challenger he had in that title run, and that was kind of smart here, to really keep the crowd on Page's side, and they were on his side throughout this match. Weird comparison, because the match is nothing like a match that these two guys would have had, but this really felt like, to me in a way, kind of like a Ric Flair versus Lex Luger match. If they ever went 60, which I would have loved, it's funny, we put so much, nostalgic love, and rightfully so, on like the Flair and Steamboat series, and the Flair and Sting series. But honestly, in my opinion, and I don't know if this is a hot take or not, Ric Flair's best opponent might have been Lex Luger. They had amazing chemistry, and Flair was definitely Luger's best opponent ever, bar none. He made that guy look like $1 million, in almost every match they had. And that's really how this match feels here, where, Adam Page, he's great, don't get me wrong, but he's still, he's a little bit more limited than somebody like a Danielson, but then Danielson can do all of these little things and craft this story where, it makes Adam Page look like this amazing, wrestler. And that's exactly what they have here. They're really good opponents for each other. And just the story here is great, where Adam Page is, this honorable champion. Danielson's kind of become, a little bit of a slime ball. In the weeks leading up to this match, Danielson, destroyed and went over the line with all of Adam Page's friends in the Dark Order. He knocked out Colt Cabana's teeth. Player Uno and John Silver and all of these guys, he would beat down, post-match after the bell, stomp their heads and all of these brutal things. So, Page is out for a little bit of revenge in this match, but he's still this honorable champion, and they establish that right away when he breaks clean, on an opening lockup, and Danielson shoves him, and that fires Page up, and they kind of go through this story of Page, being this, young, dumb, emotional, anxious champion, and Danielson being this calculated vet that can play into that and take advantage of that and really get into Page's head. And Danielson's so good taunting throughout this match, and he's doing all of these jumping jacks and stuff. That's another thing too. If you're doing jumping jacks in a match, you're telegraphing that the match is going to go long, and you're showing you have this cardiovascular endurance. But I digress. But he does all of these great jumping jack taunts and all of these little things, and he really dials into that 2006 heel rule. Like I said, he does all of these little brutal things. He pulls on Adam Page's nose, and he does a surfboard, but then leans them all the way back into a dragon sleeper, which is brutal. And he's telling the referee, I have till 5, and all of these things. And you can tell that, these are things that, Danielson didn't really get to fully explore in the WWE, so he's having a blast being able to do it here. And it just makes the match infectious, right? You have a blast watching it as well. Page, they do a really good job at showing that he's stronger, he's faster, and he has all of these advantages over Danielson, causing Danielson to have to really go into that crafty wrestler, antagonistic heel playbook that he does. There's a point where Danielson's chopping him and Page just runs right through the chops. I'm pretty sure they aped that straight out of a Lex Luger and Flair match, or Sting and Flair match. But, Danielson really starts to dominate until Page gets this big offensive run and starts to counter all of this signature Danielson offense. Again, showing that, Danielson's got all of these moves that he does, but Page is bigger and stronger and faster. And, Danielson can't utilize them as to how he normally would in a match. He cuts off the suicide dive with a big boot. He hits, the springboard clothesline on the apron that he does. He hits a big pescado. But he makes the mistake of going to the well once too often in this match, and he jumps off the top rope, and Danielson lands this big kick to the midsection, and that gives him, a target to work over, working over the back and the ribs. But again, Danielson goes for the signature offense and gets countered every step of the way. He goes for the drop kick in the corner, and he, gets caught coming in and gets, clotheslined off the top rope, which was kind of like a Danielson, signature. He'd take that bump where he'd get crotched on the top rope and take the flip bump lariat. I saw him do that, against Nigel McGuinness, back in the day, and I saw him do that against The Miz on, WWE television. So that's kind of a signature Danielson bump that he does here. Page gets a big tope. He gets a big Orihara moonsault. He's really rocking and rolling. Danielson tries for all of these little old school tricks. He grabs a crucifix and tries to go for, the Gary Goodrich elbows, but, Page is able to just, muscle him out of that encounter with a big Death Valley driver. He goes for a superplex, and Danielson tries to counter to the back superplex, one of his staples, but, Page is able to slip out of that. But again, does all of these high risk moves. He goes for a moonsault and he misses, and it allows Danielson to get a really crafty, good near fall for 2 off a Maestral cradle. So, they do all of these, great little moments where like Page will make a big mistake and Danielson will capitalize and almost win the match, and getting all of these near falls throughout, kind of keeping with this point story that, maybe they weren't even really going for at the time, but that, Danielson, if you're looking at this match, Page has these big offensive bursts, but throughout, consistently throughout the match, Danielson is on top with the wear down, with the works, with the near falls. He gets cattle mutilation in, but only for a couple seconds, and Page gets the ropes. He gets the label lock in, but only for a couple seconds, Page gets the ropes. He gets a triangle choke, but only for a couple seconds, and Page gets the ropes. So he's, having all of these great moments. But the big, kind of turning point spot in this match is when Page goes for the buckshot lariat, and Danielson sees this coming and he bails out to the floor, and Page, he's fired up, he's aggressive, and he goes back up top for the Orihara moonsault that he landed earlier in the match. But this time he misses, he gets pushed off when he's going for it, and he takes kind of like the PCO, like front flip, back bump to the ring apron, which is brutal. And then again, a great, Danielson 2006 callback where he grabs Page by both hands and rams him head first into the ring post. Now, Page isn't headbutting the post and getting a big lump on his head like Nigel McGuinness did in the UK, but, he blades off of it. And they really sell that, the blood loss now about 30 minutes into the match, and Danielson also runs the shoulder into the post, and now, Page has this bad arm, and that Danielson is systematically starting to pick away at him. There's two ways you can watch this match. If you watch it as it airs on television, they do the picture-in-picture, but I mean, nobody really pays attention to that when you have commercials running. That's your bathroom break moment, or grab a snack moment, or check your phone or whatever. But if you watch this match, if you're outside the US and you watch it through Fight TV, you can see it unedited. And I've heard, people with differing opinions as to what's the better version. Is the TV version better because it kind of cuts out some of the downtime in the commercials, or is, the full 60-minute version of this match better? And I think there's pluses and minuses to both. And they do, throughout the commercial break, which is about, 3.5 minutes, they do this elongated period where, Page is having his cut checked at ringside. And it could be a count out, but, rather than go that route, the referee allows the match to continue, and they check this cut to see if Page can continue. And it's funny because if you were watching this through the picture-in-picture, you'd be like, oh, this is boring, nothing's happening. But watching, the unedited version of this match, Danielson is so good here, like just interacting with the crowd, again, with the jumping jacks, and he's flipping the crowd off, and like all of this great stuff that you wouldn't see him do in the WWE, but now he has that flexibility to do it in the AEW environment, just like he used to do on the indies. So it's really, really cool. I liked watching it. I prefer the full 60-minute version, if you're able to find that one floating around out there. When they do come back from the break, though, they up the intensity, and Danielson's so good here. He hits a big baseball slide and the knee off the apron, and he's just pounding away at Page's cut and ripping it open and clawing at it and doing everything he can. But eventually Page is able to get the advantage back again, because Danielson goes for the label lock, and they end up on the ring apron when Page gets the ropes, and the same ring post that injured the shoulder of Page and busted him open, it kind of turns around on Danielson. He's firing away these big kicks that he would do, but he misses one and hits the post, and Page is very aggressive and able to jump on that. He hits like a shin breaker on the ring apron, and hits the knee into the guardrail and around the ring post, and really starts to attack this knee of Danielson, and it creates this kind of natural reset where Danielson's now got the bad leg, Page has got the bad arm. We get strike exchanges, and both guys are trying to use their bad limb. Page loves those lariats but can't really hit him, and Danielson loves those kicks but can't really hit him. And in the last 15 minutes of the match, we really pick up the pace. We get a bunch of big near falls. We get, the regal plex from Danielson, and the belly to back superplex, and, Page hits like the dead eye on the ring apron, and a tombstone pile driver, and all of these great, moves and moments. And we lead to another big spot where it's a callback to the Omega and Page match from Full Gear. And there's a moment in that match where, Omega avoids the buckshot and kind of, scurries around at ringside and goes over to the timekeeper's table to try to get some respite. And Page doesn't let him have it and hits this big, flying lariat off the top rope onto Omega through the timekeeper's table. So they kind of revisit that spot here where, Danielson is rocked, can't really do anything. He's outside. Page could maybe take the count-out victory at this point, but he doesn't want to let Danielson rest. He doesn't want to win that way. So he goes up to the top of this lariat, and of course he misses and crashes and burns through the commentary table. And Danielson, again, is so good here. He's completely vicious. He pounces on Page. He pulls up the mats at ringside and exposes the concrete and hits a DDT on them. He's still doing the jumping jacks, but at this point he's doing them on one leg, which is great attention to detail with the leg injury. It's so good, everything that Danielson is doing here. And it really puts all of this sympathy back on Page, leading into the closing moments of the match. And one thing that they do really well here too, and I'll talk about this again later in the series, is they really stress the urgency of the 60-minute time limit coming into the end. Where if it was a heel champion, a lot of times you'll see the heel try to hang on and make the time limit. But here, you have Page, you have him as that honorable babyface champion. He wants to win. So in the closing moments, he knows time is up. He doesn't want to go to that draw. He wants to finish. And Danielson, he needs to win that title within that 60 minutes. So he's grabbing everything he can. There's a lot of good roll-up near falls and all of this great stuff and all of these false finishes. And, it leads into our closing moments where Danielson, has Page and says, I'm going to kick his effing head in and does, the old school, Bryan Danielson head stomps. And tries to finish him with the Busaiku knee, but Page catches him coming in, hits the dead eye for 2, and then says, I'm going to kick his effing head in and starts to head stomp him, goes for the buckshot, that gets countered into the label lock. Danielson is so good at showing the aggression and wanting that tap, and he's adding all of these brutal cross faces into it, pulling at the mouth, doing whatever he can. Page is pounding at Danielson's bad leg, trying to get him off. And ends up kind of fighting out of that label lock and gets a slingshot. And Danielson, catches himself and skins the cat coming back in, not wanting to waste any time. He knows he needs to be in the ring. We're under, 60 seconds at this point. But when he turns around from skinning the cat, he gets blasted with a big lariat, takes a great, flip bump off of it like he always does. Page primes, finally hits the buckshot for the first time in this match, but as soon as he hits it, the 60-minute time limit expires. And like I said, at the start, a couple more seconds, and Page would have had that match won. So you get that satisfaction here. You get this historical, almost masturbatory a little bit. Oh, these guys won 60 minutes on TV. This is such a big deal. So you get that satisfaction out of it, but you also get the satisfaction of knowing Page maybe could have got the win, so we're going to get a rematch here, and we did, and like I said, it was, in my opinion, even a better match. This match, it tells a great story throughout. It is never boring. It's got a great crowd. It feels like a big deal on TV. 60-minute draw for a world title on national television, you don't see things like that anymore, so I love that AEW is kind of brought this back. It adds importance to the title. You get to see Danielson in his environment, having the time of his life, working this crazy, aggressive, elongated match. He made Page look possibly better than anybody's ever made Adam Page look. He looked like a world-class wrestler in this match and a worthy world heavyweight champion. This match is excellent, and it'll be really fun to, again, go back and look back at it a couple of years from now, depending on where the AEW world title is at that point, and if we get any more 60-minute draws between now and then. But again, it really shows that if you put importance on wins and losses and your titles, and you do things like time limits and stuff like that, the WWE's thought, is too old school and will never work now, it can work, and it can work incredibly well. And as a pro wrestling fan, that's the type of stuff I like to see. We've talked about it so many times with AEW here. At this point, there's really no way to go back and watch these, episodes unless you've recorded them on a PVR, but hopefully AEW has an on-demand service at some point. If you are outside the US though, on Fight TV, you can watch all of the old AEW action, including this match, fully uncut. If you are inside, in the US though, you can find this match online. Just do a Google search for it. You can come across it. You can subscribe to my channel here on YouTube so that you never miss a video. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Wrestling50. And please join me again next time as we continue to count down Pro Wrestling's Top 50.